Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to One Nation's Stop the Turbine Takeover rally. We have brought together here this morning in Brisbane a group of committed farmers, community activists, business people, professional speakers, politicians, because we wanted to bring the message down here to the city about what is happening to the east coast of Queensland because of these wind turbines. It extends much further than just the wind turbines, of course. I come from a town called Kilkeven. It's about 50 kilometres west of Gympie, and we sit pretty much smack bang in the middle of the Wide Bay Burnett area, which has been designated as a renewable energy area, which means we're being absolutely hammered with solar farms, high voltage lines, battery energy storage systems, pumped hydro projects and wind turbine complexes. For us in the country, people like me who survive on primary production, on our local towns, it is so important that we get the message down here, that the people in the city understand what this transition is doing to the backbone of this country. Because the backbone of Australia exists through our towns, our communities, our strong communities, and they are currently suffering. Those communities that are under threat, they're unrenewable, and once they're gone for good. So I thank you all so very much for being here today. We've got an amazing lineup of speakers. We're going to have a crew who've travelled hours on planes, trains, buses and automobiles, who've come today to speak to everybody. We're going to follow that up with a couple of amazing speakers, in my opinion. Challen, Nowakowski, And then we'll be following up with Senator Malcolm Roberts, who will be speaking to us about One Nation and its view on this and policies. Senator Pauline Hanson sends her thoughts to everybody here today. She stands alongside of us on this topic, and in fact, I would not be here today and I would not have organised this if Senator Hanson hadn't have personally asked for this to be put on today. She is unwell and she's not able to make it this morning, but I assure you when I say she is fighting alongside us that is 100% correct. So I know all the people that are going to be speaking next. Their stories are heartbreaking. That is what we're trying to let you know, that their homes, their businesses, their communities, they're being divided, they're being destroyed and white-anted by the net zero and renewable energy policies. So I'm going to introduce the first person to the stage, and his story in particular is a little bit heartbreaking for me because it's the district that sits west of mine, out near Cumbia. It's a picturesque town in the near the peanut capital, Kingaroy. So Brenton Opperman, I welcome you to the stage, mate, and thank you for travelling down from your farm.
Thank you. As you've heard, I'm Brenton Opperman. I come from a little area called Manyum, just outside of Cumbia in the South Burnett region. Our region's pretty well known for its growing and food capabilities. The only thing our area probably lacks a little bit of is water. That is our biggest issue to date with the current wind farm of Toronto West, which has been proposed behind us on our boundary of 80 near neighbours by RES. RES has currently got this wind farm through all procedures at this stage without having a water source to build it. We, out on the Manyum, currently have salty bore water, very minimal bore water, and between neighbours we have to share that water. Our current concerns amongst our community and most people out on the Manyum at the current time is that this water will get drained, sucked away from us, causing 80 farms to go without water. The wind farm is still currently trying to drill down to bore water to find the water to build this project, whilst near neighbours for the last 3 years have been stressing, trying to find ways to keep their water, to keep their livelihoods going. Roads and infrastructure is another main point that I'd like to bring up. For 3 years, we have fought to keep our roads and infrastructure maintained and to get them brought up to a standard, which they will have to do, in our opinion, to put the vast amounts of traffic and stuff down that they plan on putting down our roads. For about 2 years ago, our school bus near got cleaned up by a truck and dog out the front of my place. I live on a single lane bitumen road with not a lot of area to turn off on. I went out the front of my place that afternoon after seeing this and having to talk our bus driver and calm her down and build a bus lane out the front of our property to ensure the safety of our kids and our community. For 2 years, RES has told us they were going to put a bus lane in for the full families on that Manyum Road. For 2 years, we've been told that that was going to happen to protect our community and our kids. To date, RES has put a traffic management plan into place that has now null and voided their commitment to our community. They're planning on putting basically a 2-lane highway in front of my property, giving our bus and our kids nowhere to get on or off, and they think this is acceptable. Our biggest fear in our community is for RES to start listening to us, or for these renewable companies to start talking and working with the communities. We are going to have a death or an accident in our community. That is what it's going to have to boil down to before we start seeing our processes and our thoughts put into place. I asked you here, what would you think if your kid got ran over because someone didn't want to spend a little extra money to put a bus lane in beside you? What livelihood would you have if a bus got cleaned up in front of your property, even after you've told these people that it needs to be done? This is just one example. There's a single lane road that they plan on putting 100 cars down but don't want to upgrade, simply to save $1. We've got bullying and thug tactics happening all along and throughout our community that is creating huge mental fatigue upon our community. We've got people that we're constantly checking in with and watching because this is taking a mental toll on them. We've got people being told by these renewable companies that when they light up their houses that they've lived in and had in their families for 100 years because of all the traffic they plan on putting in front of them, and when they ask how they plan on getting any sleep with all the lights and everything that's going to be put in front of their place, the renewable company wheels around and says, put your bedroom at the back of your house. This is the aspects we're copying out there. I myself have had nails thrown out in my driveway for speaking up against this. I honestly don't know where this ends. I want people to start seriously considering where they want their next meal to come from, where they want their next food to come from, because the way we are going and the amount of renewables that are being jammed down our throat out in the Wide Bay, South Burnett area is incredible. And I beg each and every one of you, if you want to come and see the damage firsthand, come on out. The noise off these turbines, the impact it has, the amount of damage they're doing by clearing the land, scraping away. We've got water runoff on my own country that is protected, yet my neighbour can clear thousands of acres to put these wind turbines in with no repercussions on them. And yet I'm held to a standard to make sure that that country of mine stays with that renewable, with the renewables of the trees and the regrowth on there, so that I can protect that area, and yet my neighbour doesn't have to do the same challenges that we have. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Brenton. And can I just say, I do invite everybody to drive out there. It's not that far from Brisbane. I drove some people back that I took out to see those wind turbines last Sunday evening. It took us 3 hours to get from all the way out there back here to the airport so they could fly back to Sydney. They were shocked. They had no idea what was going on out there. Go for a drive out to Kingaroy, have a coffee, support your farmers, support those communities in those places, and have a look at what they're putting in these people's backyards. The next person up on the stage is Glenda Pickersgill. Now, Glenda is an environmentalist and a farmer. Those two things can go hand in hand. She comes from the Mary Valley, and she also owns a property over on the Black Snake Range, which is where I'm from. And we've been battling for quite a few years a project being rolled out by the Queensland government-owned corporations Powerlink and Queensland Hydro. It doesn't involve wind turbines directly, but it's connected into the network of wind turbines that were planned on the Coolor Coast and related to all these other wind turbines. So Glenda, welcome you to the stage, and she's going to tell you about what's happening in the beautiful Mary Valley.
Hello everyone, my name's Glenda Pickersgill. I'm a cattle farmer from the Mary Valley and Kilkeevan area. For those who don't know where the Mary Valley is, if you drive about 2 hours drive north along the M1, you'll come to the Mary Valley, a lovely valley in the Mary River catchment. I've come down to Brisbane this morning so I could share with you some details about the flawed proposed Barumba Pumped Hydro project and its 2 associated transmission lines being planned in the beautiful mountains and farmland around our region. But not only that, I'll talk about how these 2 proposed projects facilitate much worse devastation in the whole Gympie region, with wind turbines and industrial scale solar panels being planned. These would be needed to pump the water each day from the bottom reservoir to a new top reservoir at Barumba, so that water could flow down through turbines for energy generation during times when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. Firstly, the proposed Barumba Pumped Hydro project, announced in 2021, is a long duration pumped hydro energy and water storage project being developed at Lake Barumba, a beautiful camping, boating, recreation area, and the surrounding areas between Imbil and Jimna, just west of the Sunshine Coast. There are many unknowns and significant financial engineering, social and environmental risks. It's a state government-owned project being carried out by Queensland Hydro that has only just at the end of last year got federal environmental approval to carry out exploratory works for hydrology and geology studies. There's no environmental approvals for the main works. And there's no transparency. They're spending millions of dollars trying to buy social licence, which is very divisive in our communities. They've never disclosed a business case, a detailed analytical report, a dam break study should any of the dam walls fail, or considered alternative options, including now much cheaper and reliable climate independent long duration storage batteries. The overall magnitude of what is being proposed at the Barumba Pumped Hydro project is huge. It's located at the top of the Mary River catchment between two national parks, Conondale and Rattans National Park, with high risks to many endangered species. In the Mary River we have the aquatic species like the Mary River turtle, the Mary River cod, only found in the Mary River, with likely impacts downstream all the way through to the Great Sandy Straits and the Great Barrier Reef. Risks include water quantity, availability, who will get in drought, the priority, energy, generational storage, or water for downstream communities, irrigators, and environmental flows for the river. Changes in water quality, such as increases in turbidity, sediment loads, concentration of nutrients and heavy metals due to the operation of this proposed project. Governments have spent millions of dollars to reduce sediment to the Great Barrier Reef, and with these projects are putting that at risk. Experts have publicly said pumped hydro should never be considered on a major river system, and there are many off-stream locations that could be considered with less environmental and social risks. So no business case. A report from Queensland Hydro revealed in 2024 that it's blown out to over $18 billion, with a less than 1% chance that it would be completed by 2030. Does this sound familiar? Does it sound like Snowy Hydro 2? So Queensland Hydro was asked to go back to the drawing board and present a refreshed business case expected by the middle of this year, and we are still waiting. Queensland Hydro said they were looking at over 20 options, none of which they've shared with our community. So I won't go into too much detail. If you want to, I've got information sheets there, or go to our Facebook page, say Lake Barumba. But essentially it involves building a new wall 300 metres downstream of the existing one. The existing one doesn't meet the ANCOL guidelines for safety for large dams. And a lot of people here probably are not aware that even Wivenhoe and Somerset dam walls don't meet safety guidelines. And SEQ Water have to do something with these dam walls by 2035 to make them safe. So dam walls are not built forever. They develop problems 50 to 70 years, although sometimes it's less. Take example, Paradise Dam, built in 2006, and now it requires a completely new dam wall. So the Barumba Pumped Hydro project involves new dam wall. It's proposed for the $18 billion project, over 20 metres higher, will inundate critically endangered rainforest around the surrounding shoreline, and a whole new reservoir 300 metres higher with 6 dam walls, inundating prime koala and greater glider woodland habitat in very steep country. In fact, the baseline survey work shows that it contains the highest koala density population in Queensland. So now I'll move on to the 2 associated transmission lines, 100 kilometres each, planned to connect between Barumba and Halley's and Waluga substations, affecting 200 landholders. I'm one of them, and also facilitating expansion of industrial scale turbines and solar panel areas in the Gympie region. There's many unknowns, significant financial, engineering and environmental risks. Being proposed by Pauline, most of it's through steep country, well vegetated, through wildlife corridors, national parks and farmland. Already as landholders, and I have my little letter here, we're being contacted from companies, international, overseas companies, for expressions of interest, opportunities to lease or sell our land for future turbine and industrial style developments due to these power lines, corridors that are being proposed by Powerlink. It's brought a lot of uncertainty to many rural communities along the length of the transmission lines. Remember, they're 100 kilometres each. And it's dragged on for over 5 years since the first announced back in 2021. As soon as a transmission corridor is announced, social impacts start with uncertainty, where the line's going to be, land values drop, difficulty in getting bank finances, insurances, trying to buy social licence. So in summary, we call on our governments, both state and federal, to be more transparent with what is being proposed, stop the Barumba pumped hydro project and transmission lines that will facilitate large-scale industrial wind farms and solar farms in our region. There's better, more reliable options for energy generation and storage. Capture energy where it's needed, in the cities. We really need the people in the city to understand the truth of what is happening out in our regional areas of Queensland because of the push for so-called renewable energies. It's risking our beautiful biodiversity, regional communities, our landscapes, with threats of industrial scale turbines, solar panels and pumped hydro. Vote for a government that can bring better energy options at a far cheaper price to reduce our cost of living, preserve our beautiful landscapes and secure food supplies. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Glenda. Thanks for hopping in the car, the train and the bus maybe to get here today, share your message. The next speaker we have for the stage is Tristan Buckley. I love Tristan because it's so nice to see a young guy getting involved in all this, and he gives a whole new perspective to this, because what we don't realise is when they do this to our rural productive farmlands, it affects the nearby towns, and this is a businessman and a farmer who can tell you what it does. So welcome to the stage, Tristan.
Hey, g'day everyone. My name's Tristan and I live out of Kingaroy there. I've got some notes here on my phone, so I will read from those in a little bit, but I'd just like to thank Brenton and Glenda as well for speaking on what they raised there before. There's a common thread that's coming through all of these topics. We are roadkill in the way of these energy targets. It's devastating to know, thanks mate, It's devastating to know that we are being disregarded for the short-term benefits of a signature that was signed in Paris 10 years ago. We are not even 1% of the global population, of the global pollution when it comes to our emissions being released. And yet we are sacrificing the security of our energy grid. We are destroying the regional communities that back our nation. We are destroying the land that grows our food. We are losing our sovereignty because a couple of pencil pushers want to try and prove that we are some green powerhouse of the world. We produce so little here, and yet we are destroying the very fabric of who we are. Thank you. Where I live in Kingaroy, I moved out there 3 years ago because we've got our business out there, Room Hotels. We've been serving that community for 13 years and we hope to be there for hopefully another 50. 3 years ago, I'd just like to share with you a bit of a story. 3 years ago, we met with council and they asked us to make a huge commitment to building more accommodation in the region. We knew that there were projects of varying kinds coming out to the area. And so we sold 2 of our motels in Gympie and Gatton and redirected that investment here into Kingaroy. 2 years later, we found out that council has stabbed us in the back. They have started negotiations with RES, the same company that Brenton spoke about that is going to be ripping the water out of the ground. They spoke to council about building a 424-man workers camp out at the airport there. For those of you who don't know, regional communities survive because of our closeness. We look out for one another. We live in dry land. And when the times get hard, it's your neighbour that takes care of you. Not the government, not the committees, not the council. It's your neighbours that look out for you. And it's devastating to know that council is throwing all of this history out of the way. You know, water, and Brenton spoke about this and I'd like to touch on it again. Cumbia is dry land, has been for 100 years and has been for 1,000 years prior to that. The wandering Aborigines knew that, and the 6 generations of farmers who have been out that are aware of that now as well. But all of a sudden, a foreign, and I want to point real exclamation on that point. This is a foreign developer, not someone from down south, not someone who's trying to make something. These are foreign developers coming out of Europe, and they're treating this water like it's another number on their spreadsheet. But when times get tough, all of a sudden that means nothing to them. We've had it said to our face in meetings. There's a CCC meeting, which is where Cumbia residents and people that live in the regions can try and have a chat with these people to try and get some answers. For 4.5 years, RES has said we're still working on our water management plan. Earlier this year, in February, the federal government, thanks Labor, gave them the EPBC that had no water sourcing management, no feral pest management, and no biosecurity management plan. Could you imagine if there was a coal station that did that? Where are the greenies with our forests being knocked down? Where are the people that defended the nature? Thanks, Labor. I understand that regional committees are being... I understand that regional Australians are being asked to carry the absolute burden of this transition. And I understand we have aging infrastructure, but there's a comparison that I would like to talk to you about. And I've got my notes here. The Toronto West Wind Farm is a project that's planned out at Cumbia there. It's 97 turbines, they'll be 280 metres tall, and 100,000 cubic metres of concrete will go into the bases of all of those required. To put it into perspective, if there was a 120-storey high-rise right here, the equivalent concrete is what's going into our ground out there, and that concrete never comes out. That is stuck there forever. The land that renewables go on is unrenewable. The short-sightedness of what's happening to our country is pathetic and it's an embarrassment. Out of Chinchilla, there is a gas station which is being built at the moment, and that is the Brigalio gas station, I believe. I may have mispronounced that there. So just as a few different compelling points here. Toronto West has got 100,000 cubic metres of concrete going into it. The gas station has got 20,000. Not even, it's about 18,000. The power generation is 400 megawatts for the gas. It's 424 for the wind turbines. But there's an interesting point in this that a lot of people don't talk about. The wind doesn't blow all the time, just like Glenda mentioned. And when you look at the LADA data analysis there, wind turbines produce about 1/3 of what they're up to. So we're looking at 140 megawatts for 100,000 cubic meters of concrete that's going to last us about 25 years. But the one at Chinchilla, the gas station, that's going to be there for about 50 years. and it's a tap that can turn on 400 megawatts of power for our nation instantly. It's not intermittent, it doesn't rely on batteries, it doesn't rely on the weather. Aren't we better than this? We have a rock underneath our land that will give us energy when we require it so we can grow. And instead, we're gonna start relying on the unreliable weather. What are we doing? Thanks, Labor. So again, I would love a question answered by the Queensland Chrysophilia government. And I know that I'm running on time here. New South Wales Parliamentary did an inquiry that took 2 years. They had 157 submissions and it took them 7 general meetings with the public. And at the end of that inquiry, they had this statement: the damage done to rural and regional Australia was predictable and avoidable. Queensland Parliament, how many more of our communities must be bled dry before we learn what's already being taught down south? This is pathetic. I could talk for hours more, but I think I've got my time there, so thank you.
Thanks very much, Tristan. I've got to say, that was unbelievable. The next bloke is from an area in a similar spot to where Tristan comes from. It's a town called Mergen. You might have heard about Mergen. A lot of great footy stars have come from out that way. Adam Kratzman, if you could come to the stage, please. Adam's going to tell you what it's doing to his community out there.
Well, firstly, I'd like to say thank you to everyone that's attended today. We need more of this to happen, of people to get out and stand up for themselves and actually attend days like today. So first, I'd like to say thanks very much. So I live in a little town called Mergen that I'm very proud of. My family selected that farm in the early 1900s, and if anyone knows what selection of land went like, it was exceptionally tough. You had to clear it and make it agricultural land, or it was taken off you. So people before me have made that what it is before I've come along. So as farmers, I just want you guys to know how tough it is right now, because there seems to be this misconception of how easy it is, and everyone drives new cruisers and runs around having a great time. Yeah. When your input costs have gone up by 250%, and you've got no security of diesel to plant a crop to feed your fellow Australians, some people start to wonder why they're bothering to do it. And can you really blame them of why they're bothering to do it? We've got wind companies coming in near us in Kingaroy. They're fighting over bore water. You know, there's 1,000 cubic metres of concrete, 300-tonne gearboxes. They need clean water to be able to build them. And those farmers out there, their cattle rely on that water to survive, to produce beef, to feed everyone in this country. So we certainly feel like second-rate citizens, whereas if we had a catastrophic failure in this country, the first people we'd look to is to the people that feed it. Yeah. So why are we treated like second-rate citizens, where we have to have wind turbines and solar panels dumped on prime agricultural land? And I hear this all the time. They can still run sheep, they can still run cattle, yes, but they can't produce grain, they can't produce crops, they can't use it to its full ability to be able to feed this country. And if anyone that's had 3 meals today and doesn't have to worry about where their food come from, I would urge you to come out and have a look at the wind turbines, have a look at the solar panels that have been damaged by hail and a hole's been dug with 1.3 million solar panels buried. And if anyone here can tell me that the destruction of our environment and prime farmland is supposed to save it, I think you might have drank the Kool-Aid. So for us personally, we want to see reliable energy. We're heading towards blackouts, we're heading towards not having power. We're already at the point where people don't want to open businesses because they're concerned about power prices. We've got people that have got power bills on afterpay, and they're small business trying to feed the nation, provide for their family, and heaven forbid you want to leave something behind that's better for your kids than where you grew up in and you left them something worthwhile. So these projects, I would urge you to go out and have a look for yourself. When you go out and meet with couples in their 80s that can't have blue care attend their house because the roads are trashed by renewable companies, or there's car accidents, or you can't get in and out of town, you can't get your kids to school, or as Brenton said, if you want to say anything about it, you get roofing screws thrown on your driveway, you get roofing screws thrown where the children's school bus drives, heaven forbid that gets into a steer tyre and there's a major accident. So we're not here to complain. We all want cheaper power, and we, as a farmer, if we don't look after our environment, we don't have a farm. Now you've got reef regulation rules where we can't work country without getting approval from government to do so. But you can decimate mountainsides, kill koalas, you know, wedge-tail eagles that you would see over here going in trying to get something to eat under the turbines. You can decimate the environment, but heaven forbid you want to try and feed the country. So if you haven't been out and had a look, I'd urge you to do so. Do some research for yourself, because those little communities like mine, which I'm very proud of, they're built on community spirit. They're built on helping your neighbour when times are tough. And we all know there's plenty of tough times. But what we see is complete division in our community, where people that are hosts, and that's their right, if they want to be a host, that's up to them. But when you've got to sign non-disclosures and you can't even have a cup of tea with your neighbour or go to the pub and have a beer because you're so scared of this non-disclosures, and it divides the community to a point that shops shut, or 300 or 500 man work camps are proposed in small towns like Cumbria where the school bus goes every day, you have to seriously sit back and think, is there a better way for us to be able to move forward in this country, provide cheap, reliable power, and keep our country moving? So, thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Adam. The next speaker is probably somebody who I think is one of the bravest people in Australia, other than Pauline Hanson, because I think she's very brave. When you live in a small community in a rural area and you stick your head up above everybody else and you have an opinion, or you speak out, for some reason we've got this ethos in Australia that you cut the person down. Whether you agree with them or not, you just have to, because why would they stand up and draw attention on to your community? This lady is what we call the collateral damage of what you see on the screen here. She lives in Jandowie, just down the road from her beautiful cattle farm that her and her husband run, is a tourist viewing platform so that you can go and watch this, while she lives in an utter hell a kilometre down the road because she chose not to sell out. Fiona Duff, I welcome you to the stage. She's come a long way to be here today. You'll probably recognise her. She's been all over the TV lately. I'm so grateful that she's here.
Well, hello. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. My name is Fiona Duff, and I'm a farmer with cattle and crops with my husband on a farm near Jandowie, 3 hours northwest of Brisbane. I live next door to Wombo Wind Farm. This is a project that a company called REP, Renewable Energy Partners, proposed back in 2018. It started out as a 25 to 35 turbine project. That's what we were told in the beginning. Actually, it turned out that a 121 turbine project was what was approved. And this is where my story starts. I now have 83 turbines, with the possibility of more turbines in stage 3, along with solar coming. It is being run as a joint venture with Cubico and Standwell. I have 6 turbines within 3 kilometres of my home. My next door neighbours, Nev and Gladys Franz, have 13 within 3 kilometres of their home. Since June 2025, I have been putting noise complaints to Wombo Wind Farm for both myself and the Franzes. Each time, they say they will look into each complaint, and each time they tell us, nothing to see here, case closed. We paid for an independent noise expert to do background noise testing because we had no faith in what was happening around us. We chose a reputable consultant that had worked for Standwell for 20 years previously. He told us that we could expect 40 decibels at our home and 44 at the Franz's. The state wind code says 35 decibels at night, 37 during the day for non-hosts. Our neighbours, who are hosts, have actually signed up for 45 decibels day and night. Some of them have got turbines built 800 metres from their home. Now these turbines, they are 246 metres to the tip. We were horrified that they would do this. My husband moved to the area in 1980 and he has worked in some capacity for everyone in the district over this time. And it has been a total slap in the face. Some have openly said that they will move to town if it's too noisy, while we are left to deal with the consequences. You know, we were offered to host turbines on our property, but we believe that our land is too valuable to do this. And we also knew that there was no place that would not impact a neighbour. We honestly believed that our neighbours would also treat us the same way. It has destroyed our community, to say the very least. Unbelievably, the Franz's home has it written in the planning document that it will be subjected to 37 decibels, which is over the nighttime requirement. SARA, the State Assessment and Referral Agency, allowed this to slip through. Subsequent noise monitoring documents even have the figure at 38 decibels written in red. Still, the project did not follow the proper process of being redesigned. They continued on. We pleaded for construction to stop a year ago so this issue could be addressed. It was then that a SARA employee said to me that I was wasting my time and my money pursuing this matter. That just made me more determined to expose what has been going on here. SARA employees from the previous Labor government are still there making the same mistakes to the detriment of our state. We have also been subjected to shadow flicker in our home. The offending turbines are over 2 kilometres away. In Wombo Wind Farm's shadow flicker assessment document, it states that we will not be subject to shadow flicker. 0. These documents are not worth the paper that they are written on. And because it's not 30 minutes in duration on any one day, it's totally acceptable. The Queensland government has spent $466 million into the Wombo Wind Farm project. They have been sold a lemon. With the noise exceeding the state wind code 23, it will have to be curtailed. It will not be able to run at full capacity. Imagine spending all that money for something that they know cannot run at full capacity. As a taxpayer, I'm disgusted. We have also shown SARA that Cooper's Gap Wind Farm is also exceeding the noise limit. We helped fund independent testing to show that wind farm companies, we have also shown SARA that Cooper's Gap Wind Farm is exceeding the noise limit. We helped fund independent testing to show that wind farm companies are not doing their duty of care. This particular farm at Karanga North was sold because they didn't want to live in the noise. The subsequent owners, family, also didn't like dealing with the noise and they moved out, and another family has moved into that home. They are also having issues with the noise. This has gone to SARA. We showed them that the noise was over 36 decibels at night. And what was their response after months of having the information? We better get more testing. AGL and Tilt Renewables have not taken any ownership of these issues. I know another family who also puts in complaints at Cooper's Gap, but nothing gets done. There is no protection. No one monitors the sound. The wind farm companies have free rein. Before Wombo Wind Farm was built, we could even hear Cooper's Gap under certain conditions. And it's 10 kilometres away from our farm. We couldn't understand why anyone in our community would agree to get involved, especially since everyone knows about it. The noise, the brake issues at Cooper's Gap that they have to deal with. But this is all covered up for the general public. Green, free energy. Nothing to see here. Our community has been turned into an industrial zone. It sounds like we live at an airport at night, with the planes in a holding pattern. This is devastating since our background noise at night before the wind farm was well below 30 decibels. There's not a room in my home that I cannot see a wind turbine. We cannot escape it. But what is most disturbing is that the Queensland Government has known since 2015 in an RTI document that 1.5 kilometre setbacks are not adequate. They've ignored their own noise expert. All of this could have been prevented, but they've ignored it and even taken a step backwards by taking the setback completely away, relying solely on the wind farm's acoustic modelling to determine where turbines go. This is terrifying. People need to be protected. We are fighting for 3 kilometre setbacks to be legislated, which is obviously used in conjunction with independent noise modelling. The LNP government has the opportunity to draw a line in the sand and stand up for farmers, the people who produce your food and fibre. We are trying to educate people about what is really going on. We also need upfront decommissioning to be legislated, just as the mining and offshore wind projects have. It must not come back to government to wear the cost of pulling them down when the $200 company goes bust. Some of the farmers who have gambled with their most valuable asset could well find out that their property is worth nothing, and they can't afford to take the turbines down at the end of life. Imagine leaving that legacy for your family. Issues have arisen during construction have been things like the destruction of our road, because they're not just capable of dealing with the massive influx of traffic, not to mention the unbelievable driving behaviours that we've had to deal with. They kindly painted a tree blue to help us with mental health awareness. Talk about virtual signalling. Do they care about our mental health? Hell no. They are not interested in what this has done to our mental health. Each time we hold an information session at the Franzes, it's absolutely heartbreaking to see how this has just torn an 80-plus farmer apart. And what about Nev and Gladys's bore? Underground water that was supposed to be used for stock and domestic use. Well, the neighbours decided that they would cash in and supply water for the project. The bore gets immediately changed to commercial use because it's for a renewable project. Now, the bore is incredibly low and salt is appearing on Gladys's plants in her garden, killing them. With reduced water through no fault of their own, they have been left with an uncertain future, as water in our district is not easily replenished. What is also disappointing is to see the lack of care with such a valuable resource. Countless truckloads of water have gone onto roads. They've even been caught watering the bitumen on numerous occasions. It's such waste. These are just some of the things that we have to deal with. And I don't want anyone else to go through these issues. This is happening all over our country. It's time to stand up and think about what direction we really want to go in. Our power bills are not getting lower. We have been sold a green nightmare. If we don't take back control and demand 3 kilometre setbacks and upfront decommissioning to be legislated, our valuable farmlands will be nothing more than industrial waste sites. Is that the kind of future you want? It's time to send a very clear message to our politicians that they work for us, and it's our money that they are throwing down the toilet. It's time to get our country back on track.
Thanks very much, Fiona. And I do urge you to take a drive out and have a look at what's around her house. That's it, right there on the screen at this very second. I took that footage last weekend with a drone. Have a look at the size of those turbines compared to those giant HV lines. That'll give you some idea of what exists out there. It's quite shocking. I tell people it's like the War of the Worlds. You come around the corner and you see the first glimpse of it. Every single person I've taken out there is in absolute silence with their jaw on the ground. So the next guy we've got on the stage is named Scott Challen. Scott's going to talk to us all about what's happening with the componentry and these things, international lobbying, all sorts of stuff. Thanks, Scott.
I'm going to hold the microphone because I'm a bit of a freewheeler. Good morning, racists, homophobes, bigots, and One Nation supporters. How are you? As well as the mainstream media, you guys are here too. I guess you have your own category outside of that, right? It's really awesome to see you all here today, and thanks very much, Katy, for the opportunity to speak here, and great to see you too, Malcolm. Great speakers, great topic, and as a owner of the Australian Lobby Group and organiser of rallies around Australia, I love talking about the stuff that's happening in our country. And when Katy rang me to have a conversation about this topic, I happened to be driving through Europe on a holiday I booked a really long time ago with my beautiful wife. I've got to give her a shout out here. And as Katy rang me, I was literally looking at thousands of wind turbines to the left and right of the motorway I was driving on. I drove 2,500 kilometres through Europe over 4 weeks, and there was barely a kilometre where I wasn't seeing a wind turbine. Think about that. Barely a kilometre. Every single country is being covered in these things. And do you think that the Europeans understood the scale of what was unfolding around them when they started? Because that's where you are today. You're where they were kind of 10, 15 years ago. And suddenly the motorway is covered in these things, thousands of them as far as you can see. Katy used a really good term the other week at a rally we were at, War of the Worlds. You're surrounded by this machinery. Your vision of beautiful countryside is gone. You've seen the photos today. This is the beginning. Now this thing's been unrolling for a while now. We've been talking about it for a while. But I'm old enough to have remembered when we had a crisis with electricity prices about 15 years ago, and some of you guys would be too. And we were told that the reason that power was so expensive was because we were gold plating the existing energy grid. Do you all remember that? And we were having a crisis of cost. Businesses were going under. Manufacturers were collapsing. And this was really the great unraveling of our economy. We gold-plated this transmission, entity to then do what we're doing now, where we're going to duplicate it. So is the price going to come down? I'm pretty confident it's not. Are you going to be screwed even harder? Yes. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of sick of being screwed in Australia over the last 20 odd years. I kind of like the way it used to be when I was perfectly fine burning coal. I have zero problem with it. Do you know why I have zero problem with it? Because the metric they used to convince you that you were evil by being the highest carbon emitters on the planet was garbage. Did they measure it per square kilometre? No. They used it per person. And they said, you're the highest emitters, and you're racists. And you're racists, and you're bigots, and you're homophobes, just to make you feel even more guilty. That's what they said. And it turns out that Australia, our emissions per kilometre is less than 50 tonne. Less than 50. China's 1,300 per square kilometre. 1,300 tonne per square kilometre. We don't even compare. I know people talk about the 1% of emissions globally. It's actually less than that. It's pathetically low. You're not changing anything. And we're going to burn our beautiful wilderness, our countries, our farms, all of it, for what? So that billionaires in green industry lobbies can make more money out of you. That's what's going on here. And it's a scam, and it's time for it to end. So what are the lobby groups that got us here? Because it's not my lobby group. I'm a lobby group for you, for the Australian people. I'm a lobby group for getting back to the way things used to be, where we had industry, and we had tradesmen, and we had apprentices, and we had a country that actually functioned. But you have got green energy lobby groups that have been in this government's ear for years now, the uniparty duopoly, both sides of it, the red and the blue teams, and they have been infiltrated with people that have been bought off and bribed. That's not bags of cash, that's incentives long-term for them in their careers. Because let's face it, you've got a political class in this country that the job that they're in now is probably the best paid job any of them are ever going to have. That's a fact. You know that.
They get 300 grand a year.
300 grand a year plus. So they can sell your future off and cover your countryside and the stuff that we're seeing on these photos.
There's 224 of them.
I'm sick to death of it. And when good people like Katy and good people like Malcolm Roberts and the other speakers who we've had up here today are prepared to stand against it, I'm prepared to stand against it too, as are tens of thousands of Australians that are members of what we do. Because we know that unless you have a lobby group in Canberra advocating for you, I can tell you who's in the ear of those politicians down there, and they don't give a shit about you. They don't care about you, they just care about their profits. What happened to hydrogen? What happened to that? Remember, that was going to be the green energy of the future. Who got paid? Not you, not me. Twiggy got paid. Yay for Twiggy. Mike Cannon-Brooks, who got paid? I could name these guys. They're probably all going to take me to court next week, and I'm going to hit you all up to GoFundMe to fight them off. The reality is you aren't benefiting from any of this, and your power is not going to get cheaper. Now, there's intelligent people around here that I follow online, Ben Beattie, Mark Oswald, Aidan Morrison, who I've met, someone might have mentioned before. These are intelligent people who have mapped this stuff out, and there is no win for you. There is no win. These are guys that have studied this stuff inside out for years, and none of them can get it to make sense. It doesn't stack up. But you're meant to be bought on it by the vibe. Well, we're saving the planet. It's good for you. Do any of those photos look like it's good for you? Not a single one of them is in your interest. None of you will benefit. And those Belgium farms I was driving past that were absolutely littered with the trail of these War of the Worlds machines didn't look like they were benefiting either, because there were huge sections of their agricultural land that they could not use, that you will not be able to use after this stuff. And let's face it, what's the shelf life on these things? And where are they made? Mostly in China. Where are they made? Overseas. We're not making them here. Now you've got an AI data revolution that's unfolding around the world right now. We're going to build data centres all over Australia, and the federal government's saying you've got to tie them into green energy. Now, so last I checked, I think AI data centres need consistent baseload power, not intermittent. So what sort of batteries are you going to be running on these things? It doesn't stack up, it doesn't work, and it doesn't make sense. You know that, I know that. In America, they're making those data centres open up nuclear power stations. They're making them open up gas reserves to be able to use gas turbines. And the wait list on buying that technology is years out. We're already behind the 8 ball here. This isn't a solution for your future. It's snake oil, and it's designed to make other people rich and not you. They are stealing everything from you. They lie about everything now. We know that. Pick one statistic that you trust. Look at one government project, state, local council, federal, none of it stacks up. Everything blows out by 10 or 20 times. So do you really believe that they're going to provide these at the cost they're telling you? Of course they're not. And it doesn't matter whether it's Team Red or Team Blue, it's the same thing. So what we need to do is end this garbage. It's time to go home from the roulette table, folks. It's 3 a.m. It's time to go home to bed. Put it to bed, say goodnight, and end the madness and get back to doing what we do best. And that's using what we've already got, expanding on that, and getting control of our country again. Thank you very much, Katy.
Thanks so much, Scott. Completely animated and vibrant as always. Thank you. The next guy to the stage got up probably at about 3 o'clock this morning, I'd say, drove all the way down the Coranda Range to get to the Cairns airport, jumped on a plane and came down here this morning. And as is with everybody here today, we didn't need to be here to do this. We wanted to be here to do this so that we could tell everybody here in the city about what's going on. And Stephen Nowakowski, I would say, is one of the leading voices in Australia. You'll recognise him when he hops up here. He's been on plenty of TV shows because he's the guy who was the very first person to out the fraud behind these wind turbines. And he's here today to share a few facts and figures. He's taken the majority of the footage that you can see on the screen here today. And I just urge you to listen to what he has to say. It does get a little bit heavy, but it is well worth it because I'm hoping that you'll go home tonight and spread all of his information throughout all your friends and family. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming out today on a weekday. We've all got, other things we should be doing, but here we are talking about energy and the failure of this state and federal government. My name's Stephen Nowakowski. I'm a nature photographer, a cartographer, which is a map maker. I draw maps, a publisher, and also a founding member of Rainforest Reserves Australia and also Australian Biodiversity Alliance. And my story starts probably around 2017, where I was a strong believer in wind farms and renewable energy. And the very first industrial wind farm was proposed for Queensland, about a half an hour away from my place, called the Mount Emerald Wind Farm. And it was, the State Code 23 was rushed through to facilitate that project. And it was a project that was going to really impact species of high biodiversity, 3 threatened or endangered plant species, northern quolls. But back in the day, that was the price I thought we had to pay for renewable energy. And that project went ahead. It caused devastation of that beautiful plateau, untouched remnant forest. When I say the word remnant, that means forest that's been untouched. It hasn't been logged or commercially logged or clear felled. There's not what farmers call Category X, which is regrowth land. It was pristine habitat. But that was the price I thought we had to pay. That was built, and I thought, well, that's going to power 90,000 homes. Our politicians and the developers were saying that this wind farm alone would power 90,000 homes. And I thought the city of Cairns would then be clean and green because we have about 100,000 residents. But shortly after that, there was another wind farm proposed called the Caban Wind Farm. Then another one called the Challen Wind Farm. Then another one called Upper Burdekin Wind Farm. Then High Road Wind, next one to the south, which is Mount Fox Energy Park. And then the Proserpine Wind Farm. Then the Youngala Wind Farm. Then the McIntyre Wind Farm. Then the Moa Creek Wind Farm. Then the Boomerange Wind Farm. Then the Clark Creek Wind Farm. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of wind farms right down the eastern escarpments of Queensland in our high value remnant forests. And they were all fast tracked under Palaszczuk and Stephen Miles. They were pushed through within a matter of weeks. And this is the situation that we're in now, is because of all those legacy developments that were rushed through under Palaszczuk and Miles. And what we need now is Chris Afuli to grow a backbone and call those projects in. So over the years, being a cartographer, I've been able to map these projects. And the scale is horrific. I don't think people understand the scale. We hear Chris Bowen in the media talk about the integrated system plan and that we need hundreds of gigawatts of installed capacity built across the nation. That means nothing to anybody. What I want to see and what we want to see is what does that relate to in spatial area? And when you do the mapping like we've done, the scale is immense. And what we're seeing is absurd and disgraceful outcomes, such as the destruction of the Tarkine wilderness in Tasmania, for example. There's the Whaleback Ridge Wind Farm within the Tarkine wilderness, which is earmarked for World Heritage, and that is now going to be desecrated and destroyed and industrialised for a wind farm. We've got the Robbins Island Wind Farm, which people most likely would know about. It's been in the media lately. Places like Lake Pedder, that I've always fought hard for restoration. I'd like to see Lake Pedder restored back to its natural beauty. That will never be restored if Marinus Link goes ahead. To facilitate all these projects, the dozens, if not more, dozens, and I'll read the stats in a minute, but to facilitate these projects, we need to clear vast amounts of forests, particularly in Queensland, because our wind resources are up on the mountaintops. We don't have wind like other states along the coastlines, where we get the coastal wind resources. So our wind resources are up in the mountains, and it's those places that have escaped industrialisation, urbanisation, high-value agriculture. It's now those areas being targeted for wind exploitation. And those areas, from a conservation perspective, were always protected under the Vegetation Management Act. They were a no-go zone for farmers and developers, and they were our remnant forests. But for wind farms, it doesn't matter. They're allowed into our special sacred remnant forests. And some of this imagery here showcases that. So for example, the Mount Hopeful Wind Farm that's proposed, that's going to clear 350 hectares. Gawarabaya, 650 hectares. Moa Creek Wind Farm, 700 hectares of the most beautiful escarpment country west of Rockhampton. The Challen Wind Farm, 560 hectares. Specimen Hill Wind Farm, 785 hectares. The Prairie Wind Farm near Porcupine Gorge National Park and White Mountains National Park, west of Townsville. That's 1,100 hectares of classified forests to be cleared. The Mount James Wind Farm, 2,000 hectares. Wongalee Wind Farm, 2,100 hectares. Boulder Creek Wind Farm, 1,200 hectares. Boomer Range Wind Farm, 1,600 hectares. Cumulatively, there is tens of thousands of hectares being cleared, and the entire green movement is silent. It is disgraceful. In Queensland, we have about 316 projects in the pipeline that were mostly pushed through by Stephen Miles and Palaszczuk before we knew what was going on. Included in that is 5,175 wind towers proposed for this state. To facilitate that, 7,295 kilometres of new haulage roads being punched through forests like this along our ridgelines. There are 91 BESSs proposed, but I think that figure is far higher than that. It's very hard to determine how many BESS battery energy storage systems are in the pipeline because they're hard to find. There are actually 11 pumped hydro proposed for Queensland. There was the Yungala, but there's also the Barumba pumped hydro, but there's many others. There's actually 9 other pumped hydros planned. These are more valleys to be dammed. The more smashing up of remnant sacred forests. We've heard speakers today about the communities that are being impacted, and it's just not nature. My passion is nature and standing up for what is left of our wilderness areas. But it's our communities that are being smashed as well. And we've heard about noise impact, and I can tell you, I'm very well travelled, and many, I'd say every single wind farm that I've ever been to, when you talk to the neighbours, they're all being adversely impacted. Many go to court, and the evidence shows that they are being impacted, and they do suffer very serious health issues. But what happens is these court cases are settled out of court, because the last thing that the developer wants are these cases to go to court and then for a judge to determine an outcome. And if that was to happen, the judge would always curtail the turbines, which is catastrophic for the wind industry. And that would mean shutting down the turbines. So what the developers do is they'll do whatever it takes, and that means paying out neighbours, signing more non-disclosure agreements to shut the communities down, to stop these cases going to court. It is a really serious issue, and I've been observing, and we've got scientists up in North Queensland that have been observing the impacts of low frequency noise. And low frequency noise is a very serious issue. And if you can imagine a 40-ton blade, each blade is about 40 tonne, travelling at 250 kilometres an hour, and as it goes past the steel tower, the compression of air is so immense that it's actually an explosion. And you can't hear that with audio. It's what they call a low frequency explosion. And when you've got 100 wind towers scattered through the landscape, there are multitudes of these explosions happening in low frequency sound. And it's those impacts that are really seriously impacting neighbours, communities, also livestock and pets and animals. Now, I know in Caban, in my local area, there's the communities of Tamulan, Caban, Ravenshoe, they're suffering very serious health consequences from low frequency noise. What are the solutions? Well, I can tell you now the solution isn't what Germany is doing. So Germany is doing what we're trying to do, but they're about 5 to 10 years in front of us. Germany has 41,000 wind towers installed, and they're still one of the highest emitters of CO2 in Europe. They have the highest, or some of the highest, electricity prices in Europe. The only way they're reducing their emissions is by offshoring their emissions to India, Indonesia and China. And that's what we are doing. We are offshoring our emissions. We are deindustrializing. That is why our emissions are being reduced, not from the introduction of technology like wind, sun and BESS batteries. And in actual fact, our emissions are mostly going down by land use change. And what that means is by keeping trees in the ground. So the data shows that by keeping trees in the ground, by keeping our forests intact, that has far more impact in terms of reducing CO2 than putting wind towers all across the landscape. So what we need to do is we need to demand Crisafulli, this state government, to scrap and dump the state code 23 for wind farms. It is not fit for purpose. Like I said, that code was written back in 2017 for wind towers that are 1/3 the size of what they are today. We need to throw that entire code in the bin and start again. We need proper setbacks. We need decommissioning plans. We need environmental bonds, and we need proper community consultation, and we need so we need proper community consultation, and we need to identify there's a huge impact in terms of shedding of blades into high value agricultural land and so forth. We need to really just dump the state code, take stock of where we're at the moment, and get proper energy engineers in the room and have all energy options on the table. Because at the moment, we're moving forward with our arm behind our back. This is only a half, this is just a crazy moment in history. We need the federal government to dump the CIS, the Capacity Investment Scheme. That is a subsidy that underwrites the renewable energy projects by taxpayers so they cannot lose money. What other businesses can start a business and have the federal government underwrite their business so they can't lose money? So we need all energy businesses to be on a level playing field and dump the CIS. Yeah, so we need to stop the subsidies, and we need Chris O'Feely to drop the State Code 23 and start again. Yep.
Get the Governor General to dismiss the government.
So I just want to thank everyone for being here today. I really encourage everyone to go into rural communities and see what's going on. The images that you're seeing here is really just the tip of the iceberg. Like I mentioned, there are dozens of projects in the pipeline that are earmarked for clearing tens of thousands of hectares of classified remnant forest. So our biodiversity is being slaughtered, it's being sacrificed, and we just need to really stop the rot and change direction before it's just too late to turn around. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Stephen. I just wanted to add in that we wanted to have somebody here to speak on behalf of the McIntyre wind farm down in that area out sort of between Gundy and Texas. A lot of you'll know where Stanthorpe is, a bit west of Stanthorpe, the wine country. But nobody could come and speak because everybody down there has been signed up to a disclosure form of some type with the wind turbine company, so they're not allowed to speak out. But some of the stories I've heard are pretty horrific. These are third-hand stories, but I'm just going to quickly tell you two of them. Those people who wanted to tell the story can't come, obviously because they're bound legally, but I can tell the story. So one bloke's lost 2,000 acres of merino grazing land down there because the fiberglass shards off the blades of the turbines at McIntyre have contaminated his paddocks. He can't put the sheep in there anymore because the fiberglass shards will contaminate the merino wool, and then he can't sell the wool. For anybody who knows about the sheep industry and the wool industry, there's no market for your merino wool if it's got contamination in it. Then we've got a story of another lady who wants to sell, but the majority of these people who have these turbines on their properties, in the fine print when they signed the leases up, they didn't realise that they were signing up to the company giving them permission to sell their property at a later date. So this lady has cancer, she has a double mastectomy, she wants to move to the coast to be with her family and she can't because the company won't allow her to sell her property even though she has buyers for it. That's the sort of stuff that we're talking about when we say that our communities are being divided and they're white-anting these rural country towns. Our next speaker is Senator Malcolm Roberts. And can I just say that long before I got involved deeply in this fight, and I was just fighting with this lady down here, Shay Rule, to protect our homes of Kilkeven and Widgie, there was one bloke who just kept turning up everywhere, steadfast with the same message, who listened to everybody and everything they had to say. I didn't even realise who he was. He's a federal senator. And this is him, Senator Malcolm Roberts, the most hardest working politician I think we have in Australia who stands with us on this topic. Thanks, sir.
We are winning. Overseas, we are winning. Overseas, UN net zero is ending, or at least being given lip service. They're not implementing it. Overseas, the UN Paris never started. There's no Paris Agreement. You can do whatever you want to do so long as you legislate it. China is building coal-fired power stations. Germany and Spain are devastated economically. Prime Minister, the UK Prime Minister, British Prime Minister Tony Blair was the one who started this in Britain. He is now reversing course and encouraging publicly the government to stop doing what they're doing. So where did it start? John Howard started solar and wind with his renewable energy target. That's where it started. He also concocted the National Electricity Market, which is a bureaucratic racket, national electricity racket. He stole farmers' property rights. His government stole farmers' property rights. Never forget that. And he said it, his government said it was all based on science. 6 years after he got the boot from Parliament House, in Britain, faraway Britain, he quietly said, on the topic of climate science, I am agnostic. There's no science. The Liberals and Nationals recently broke a promise under Scott Morrison. Remember him holding up a lump of coal and then making a promise saying there will be no net zero under the Liberals? Who introduced the net zero? Morrison. Who introduced signed the UN Paris Agreement? Tony Abbott. Who implemented the UN Kyoto Protocol? John Howard. Every Prime Minister since. Liberals recently got headlines saying they're stopping net zero. That is bullshit. It is bullshit. They stopped net zero by 2050. They still have got net zero targets, but they haven't told us when they'll be implemented by. But they got the headline they want. It's a lie. Why are they doing this? Because you and One Nation are setting the agenda in this country now. That is fact. The Victorian Liberal National Party, or I think it's called the Victorian Liberal Party, promised recently to cancel transmission lines that are devastating the country in Victoria. Why? Because One Nation and you are setting the agenda. This is bubbling to the top. It's now steamrolling to the top. Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tassie, Western Australia, they're rising against this. I can tell you stories in all those states. One Nation and you are setting the agenda. Offshore turbines being scrapped. Onshore. Robbins Island, get this, Robbins Island, Tasmania, the Greens are upset. The Greens are split. The Tassie senators are saying, and the Greens are saying, go to hell. Bowen and Albanese are finding it difficult to get financing for solar and wind projects. They're lacking investors, they're concerned. And look at Snowy Hydro, their showpiece. Malcolm Turnbull actually started that. Estimated cost, initially $2 billion. Projected cost now, $42 billion. That's what's going on in this industry. Before I go any further, I want to say thank you. Thank you to the organisers, Katy in particular. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to my wife, Christine, for putting up with me. And I want to thank Steve and Katy for their leadership. These people are amazing leaders. Stephen Nowakowski has been targeted, smashed, lied about, insulted, threatened, bullied. Why? Because he's got the guts to have his integrity and the courage to speak up. That's why. And he is making one hell of a difference to this mess. I want to thank you for being awake and for making an effort for the regions, for Queensland, for Australia. Together, we are on the front line of an information war, an indoctrination war. I also want to convey Senator Pauline Hanson's apologies for not being able to make it. I have never seen her down and out until last week in Parliament. She is sick. Sick physically. The Greens might tell you otherwise.
Get rid of that marine firefly.
The regions are the heart of Australia's wealth. The heart of Australian wealth. Most of Australians' wealth comes out of the regions. Mining, agriculture, metals, minerals, energy, food and fibre. And yet, look what we're doing to them. Turbine infrasound hurts human health. The problems with mental health, the problems with hearing, physical health. Solar and wind is killing the economy, killing the standard of living in this country, killing Australia's competitiveness. The number one promise we were told about these things was that they would lower energy prices. Have they lowered energy prices? No, they haven't. They've risen. Look, wind and sun are free. Converting them to electricity is horrifically expensive. The physics just does not make sense because there's super low energy density. You've got to really scale it up and you can't do it economically. Everywhere in the world they've proven that. And it's killing us industrially. I lived in the Hunter Valley where they built the Alcan aluminium smelter because of Hunter Valley's cheap coal. And they had cheap electricity. Kurri shut. Tomago on the verge of shut. Now they're getting subsidies which are necessary to keep it open. So we've got to keep the subsidies going, Sandra. because to keep those jobs. What we need to do, though, is stop the subsidies of solar and wind, because that's driving the price of electricity through the roof. We've got to keep, we're paying subsidies to raise our electricity prices, and then paying subsidies because businesses are going out of business because of the high prices of electricity. Australia once had the best electricity grid in the world. We had the cheapest coal in the world when we relied upon coal. Now we can still mine coal, still export coal, but we can't use it here. And we have got now the highest electricity prices outside of Europe. And only 3 countries in Europe have higher prices, including Germany, which is going to hell. Everyone is affected. Your food. And who's doing this? Parasites. Parasites bludgeoning off your subsidies through your electricity prices and through your taxes. Solar and wind is also killing productive land. And increasing solar and wind is increasing landholders' liability. And farmers don't even know that. They're increasing their liability for clearing. Solar and wind and the transmission lines are killing the environment. The second promise we were made, the first promise was we will have cheaper electricity. That's the first promise. False. Second promise, we'll have a better environment. They're killing the environment in the name of saving the planet, supposedly. Solar and wind and transmission lines and big batteries are killing communities, society. They're hollowing out the bush, which is an agenda that's been followed by the Uni Party since 1996. Solar and wind turbine complexes are generally foreign owned, and we're subsidising them while we export our coal. They don't consult with the landowners, they don't consult with the communities. They show no respect for the people of Australia and no respect for our country. They're killing Australia. John Howard started it, as I said, claiming the science was behind it. Later he said he was agnostic and had no science. There is no scientific proof. I've been told by 2 reputable, very prestigious climate scientists that I am the only member of Parliament or Congress anywhere in the world to hold a government science agency accountable. Now that should terrify you, because it means no one, that's not to brag, it means that no one has gone through this properly. And when I finally hauled CSIRO before me, I had 3 sessions, each of 2.5 hours long. We said, you present the proof. The first session, under our cross-examination, they admitted that they have never said there's a danger from human carbon dioxide. Never said it. So we said, how come the politicians are saying, the CSIRO is saying that? Their answer, you better go and ask the politicians. I have asked the politicians. Not one has given me proof. Not one. I've asked for it in writing. No one's giving me proof. Next session with the CSIRO. Remember how we were told that global warming was going to kill the planet? We're even told now by the UN Secretary General, global boiling. Have you seen the oceans boiling? Global boiling. So it's all about temperature, unexpected temperature. The CSIRO admitted in the second presentation they gave to us under my cross-examination that today's temperatures are not unprecedented. It's happened before. Solar and wind did not solve that. So there's no scientific proof. And then CSIRO, the same fraudulent outfit that's pushing the false science, is producing gen cost fraud. A summary of a report on the various alternative generations of electricity. That is fraudulent. I can go through those if you want. There's no policy basis to this. There's been no options considered, none at all. There's been no cost-benefit analysis. There's been no business case, no plan, no schedule. We are being told lies, and we're being led blindfolded off a cliff by Chris Bowen and Anthony Albanese, starting with John Howard. Think about this. We are paying an estimated $1 to $1.9 billion to duplicate the best electricity grid in the world and shut down coal. For nothing. But actually, we're triplicating it, because not only are we replacing coal with solar and wind, or trying to, we're duplicating that with backup, because solar and wind needs backup. So we are paying 3 times for the privilege of having electricity. And then every 12 to 15 years, we have to replace the whole damn thing. No one's talking about that. That's why we've gone from the cheapest electricity to the most expensive. And it all started with Maurice Strong in the United Nations. He's a crook. He started the Chicago Climate Exchange as a way of levying the carbon dioxide tax so that he could become a billionaire. This is all on the public record, and so that the UN could have revenue for their work. That led to the safeguard mechanism in this country, which is a foundation for global carbon dioxide tax. Who introduced the safeguard mechanism to tax you, which you're paying right now through the end products you buy? Malcolm Turnbull and Greg Hunt. And then the Labor's recently upgraded it. Howard started it, Labor turbocharged it with the LNP support. I'll just mention a few briefly One Nation policies. We will end the subsidisation of mass solar and wind complexes. End it. That's enough to stop it, because they cannot survive without subsidies. They're the cheapest, but they can't survive without subsidies. We will rewrite the rules of the national electricity racket so that it doesn't favour anyone, and that'll give coal that's currently disfavoured a fair chance of competing. We will introduce bonds for the installation of solar and wind industrial complexes so that they can't just walk off when their $200 shelf company fails. We will prohibit the use of solar panels and wind turbines on prime farmland. These are all part of our policy we took to the last election. We will end offshore wind turbines. Any even thought of it? We will end the capacity investment scheme. Here's what we will do. The details are in that policy last year. We will rehabilitate coal and get us back to being the cheapest power in the world. We will end UN net zero. End it. We have always opposed it. We have never supported it. We will end the UN Paris Agreement. We will end the Department of Climate Change and Energy. That'll save $30 billion from taxpayers. But it will also, by changing the national electricity market rules, it will also save $3 billion from electricity costs that your government pays through your taxes. It will also dramatically increase productivity, because energy is a cascade that goes right through the economy. It will increase productivity. Our productivity in this country is flat. Flat. You can't survive in a growing world. So we will increase productivity by having cheaper energy, which is a key to higher productivity. That will increase tax receipts. So you will have cheaper goods and you'll be paying less tax, but the overall tax receipts from companies will increase. So here's what I'm inviting you to do. Protect our regions. Stop the turbine takeover. The key to a democracy, a flourishing democracy, is active democracy, participation. We've been far too passive for far too long, letting these wankers here and in Canberra just kill this country. They are killing this country. Killing the country. Stop the turbine takeover. Keep your feet on the throats of climate and energy parasites ripping apart our regions. By the way, I've been fighting this for 20 years, thanks to my wife, since 2007. It's almost 20 years. Now, we need everyone to become more active. What does a parasite do? It leeches, it sucks the blood out of things. And it kills the host quite often. That is what they're doing. They're sucking the lifeblood out of the country, sucking the lifeblood out of you, and they're killing the country. So please, be inspired by people like Katy, people like Stephen Nowakowski, Scott Challen. Join the fight to finish the fight. We're on the way, finish the fight. Join the winners.
So that's the end of our rally today, except I have one last thing to ask of everybody who is here. I'm going to get the people who've flown from a mile away today, Glenda, Tristan, Colin, Brenton, Adam, Fiona, would you please come up on the stage? I don't think I missed anybody. Scotty, Stephen. If you've been here for the whole rally for the last 90 minutes, you've heard these people speak. I want you to take a good, long, hard look at the faces of all of these people and take their stories back with you today. Take them home, spread their message to your friends, to your family, because this represents what sustains you. This represents the country, the backbone of this nation. These are the people that keep the country towns running, that make the trucks with the beef on the back come down here into the city so you can eat. We must protect them. We must stop the turbine takeover and protect the regions, because without the regions we have nothing. And we must support Malcolm Robertson, Pauline, Hanson and One Nation. Thank you very much to the Senators and to One Nation for hosting this rally today. Let's protect our regions and stop the turbine takeover. Thank you for being here today.
This is Australia. The block is awkward, it faces west, long diagonal and sloping too. And in the distance, through the heat haze, in convoys of silence, the cattle graze. A certain texture, that certain beat brings forth the nighttime heat. Out on the patio we sit, and the humidity we breathe. We watch the lightning crackle the cane fields, laugh and think that this is Australia.
Hey Tony, how are you, mate? This guy's been to every one of our rallies, every single one. I think you're doing it. 80, sorry Tony. He's looking at 80 right. I'll see you there. Thanks, mate. Am I a one-eyed, One Nation supporter? Heck no, not a chance. Am I going to keep them accountable and do my best to represent my members and my clients in the Australian Lobby Group? 100%. One Nation are not perfect, and I'm not endorsing their immigration policy, because as far as I'm concerned, they need to go further to the right. We all agree on that. But I'm going to do my absolute best on topics like this, where we should be using Australian coal and Australian technology to power our future. Because this green energy shit, this is ridiculous. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for your support. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you on September 13 at our rally. See you then.